Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup, and as you would expect, I have to thank everybody that was involved in any way with Retro World Expo. That was so much fun. I absolutely loved meeting everybody. Thank you to people who just popped by the booth and waved hello. I mean, all of you were absolutely amazing. There was so much fun stuff to talk about, but I have 2 posts this week about it, so let's jump in and just get right into the Retro World stuff. First up, I had the opportunity to do an all-star panel for the RetroRGB panel this year at Retro World Expo. And I had some ideas of what I wanted to do this year, and then I kind of thought, there's going to be so many amazing people coming, why don't I just ask them when we're there if they want to join me? That way there's not any worrying about it going up to it, just a casual, let's all hang out and talk about cool stuff. And everybody seemed into it. So we grabbed a handful of people to go up on stage, but there was also a bunch in the crowd, which I'm going to shout out everybody here, but kind of some funny stories for all of this. So first, shout out and thanks to Chris, aka Doobsenhauer, for taking the video of this, as well as Steve's panel. But on the actual panel booth with me, I had to my right, so to the left in the video, was Jamie, aka Kittrinks Reisha, depending on what forums you're on. And she is one of the main Mr. Devs and a good friend of mine, and basically the person I constantly bother anytime I have Mr. questions. And there were a lot of Mr. questions, and she fielded all of them really well. So that was very cool to have her up there with me for the first time. Also to my left was Clint from LGR, and I had met Clint less than 24 hours earlier. Clint is exactly like his reputation is. He is absolutely as nice as you would expect. He was so cool to talk to. And then the next day I was like, want to join us for a panel? And he's like, yeah, sure. That's how easy it was to interact with him. So he had some great feedback. He had an awesome old school digital camera, like way older than you would expect. He did an entire video on it a while, actually just a few weeks ago, I think. So I embedded that in the bottom of the post. Anybody who's into weird photography stuff, definitely watch that. Then on the other side of Clint, I got to finally in person meet Audie Sorley, who I've been friends with for a while, but we just never met. He's been working for Limited Run Games for a while, but he's done a ton of stuff before that. We did a whole interview. If you're interested, I linked to that and everything. And then, of course, my friend Mark from My Life in Gaming. But we also had a bunch of people in the crowd, including Rodrigo Copetti, who came all the way from the UK. Rodrigo is the one that does those super deep dive full analysis of hardware for video game consoles, real deep dive stuff. So it was cool having him here. We also had Chris from Displaced Gamers, Tito from Macho Nacho Productions, Kyle from Kaitor Industries, Durf from Console Mods, Steve from Retrotech, Lou from Lou's Retro Source, Ariel from Artistic Pixels, and he's the one that does all of our amazing merch, including the very cool shirt that I'm wearing right now. Koala Koa from the M3 Mister Project, Derek Pescarella, the Dreamcast translation dev, the SNES to NES to SNES ROM hacker Rumblements, and artist and Mr. Wallpaper creator Ronnie Snice, and also my friend and retro enthusiast and good modder Dave Lang, and I probably am missing other people, but I wanted to give everybody a shout out because everybody who was in there for the panel was also hanging out in the booth for most of the weekend, helping out people, answering questions. And while the panel was sort of focused on, just modern retro stuff and what we've been doing, it's also a really good feel of what it's like to be at these shows. Just a little more formal. Whereas if you came over to the booth, it was, more of a hangout session, but the same feel. You have just some of the coolest and smartest people out there all hanging out, having a great time with each other, nerding out over everything from weird digital cameras to Mr. Code to everything else in between. So I just can't thank all of you enough, everybody. My friends who showed up, complete strangers who I've met for the first time, and maybe now we're friends too. It's I don't know. It's one of these things where it sounds like I'm overhyping it, but it's over. So if, actions speak louder than words. I'm not gaining anything from hyping an event that's already over. I'm just saying, if you've never been to one of these and you wonder what the retro scene is really like, this is the type of event you have to go to. It's basically the opposite of every forum and Discord server you've ever been in. It's friendly and fun and lighthearted and a lot of amazing people and a lot of cool stuff too. Great vendors, great prices, and I picked up a couple of things that I was finally able to get. Even somebody was nice enough to offer me a PVM at a good price, so I was able to get the one that I really wanted for my collection. So it was just absolutely awesome. So thank you so much to everybody. Maybe Chris and Lance from Retro World will allow me to come back again next year and do another booth and panel and stuff. But We'll see. For now, check out this panel if you're interested, and just seriously, thank you. One other panel from Retro World Expo that I'd really like to share is a CRT modding panel that Steve from RetroTech did, and Chris Dubenhauer was kind enough to record this as well. And I really enjoyed it for a couple of different reasons. First of all, this is exactly what you would expect, just going into a casual conversation about how could I safely work on my CRTs? What are the tools that I need? Do I have to spend $1 million on custom tools, or could I just use mostly stuff around my house? And it answered basically all of the getting started questions that you would need for something like that. But this was also a perfect example of why live stuff is always so much more, to me at least, so much more exciting and fun than pre-polished stuff. Because for the record, I make pre-polished videos as well. There's a time and a place for everything, but there's just nothing quite like a live experience. And this proved it, because the panel that was before Steve ran late, which not their fault. It was a big setup and everything. But now that means Steve has a lot less time to cram in all of the info he was trying to get. And on top of that, anytime you have something live, something's going to go wrong. And I really feel like it was the minor little mishaps that no one really cares about that made this so much more fun than just a standard, here's how you discharge it. Like, it was fun, it was lighthearted, it was silly, but really informative. And I enjoyed the panel, but I also really loved that this is a great example of how to hang out and enjoy yourself at one of these expos and really just get into the panels and have some fun. So thanks, Steve, for rolling with it. I mean, it obviously also shows how good Steve's getting at these, because even through a couple of, not his fault mishaps, everything still went really smoothly and just felt like a great panel. So please check out the recording if you're interested. Steve makes a lot of videos that are similar, so follow him as well. But this is just one of those things where you get to have some cool tips about modding CRTs, but also sort of kind of experience what it's like to go to one of these things and be lucky enough to be in a fun and silly panel like this one. Next up, the GameCube optical drive emulator called the FlippyDrive is now up for pre-order. The price is $38 for the basic edition and $65 if you want one with that homebrew Ethernet solution built in, and they're due to ship between February and April of next year. There was actually a discrepancy on the website. I think at one point it was showing July 2025, but it should be January up to probably April, May, depending on what could normally go wrong in something like this. But the FlippyDrive is a tried and tested product. There's been prototypes floating around. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions did an awesome video on it a while back showing everything it could do. But this is really important because not only is it very affordable, but it also allows you to retain the original optical drive as well. So this has the potential to be the ODE solution for your GameCube, because you would be able to just boot right into Swiss on this one and then just use whatever medium you would like in order to run your games. So this one's really exciting. I'm looking forward to trying it myself, even though I'm sure it's going to be exactly as Tito showed in his video. And I believe that these pre-orders will be open until October. And I don't know if it's one of those things where the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to arrive to you, or if they're going to just do one giant manufacturing run. But this is one of those things where if you wanted it, I would probably do it on the sooner side just to make sure. So all of the info you need is in the post, as well as the video from Tito if you want a lot more info on it. The third batch of OSSC Pros is now up for sale. The price is about the same, which came to $360-ish plus shipping when I had it shipped to the New York City area. And it's the same exact one as last time with the black injection molded case. Matt from Video Game Perfection mentioned that these are currently en route to him, so it's sort of a pre-order solution, but unless something goes catastrophically wrong, it's going to go just as smooth as all the other orders. And Matt's always got the OSSC orders out in a timely manner whenever the stuff like this was done. So this is not one of those pay your money and wait months to get it scenarios. This is going to be basically the same as if it was in stock and ready to go, barring some insane truck gets hit by a meteor type scenario. And this is just one of my favorite scalers. It does so much. The downscaling on it is ridiculously impressive. Please check out the downscaling section of RetroRGB, care of Marco Retro, and he already did a couple of videos on this and other solutions. So honestly, I just can't say enough good things about this scaler, and it just had Lumicode support added to it as well. So if you plan on doing any of those mods to like your ColecoVision or NES or anything like that, you could actually run it right through here. And what would be most interesting about LumaCode through the OSSC Pro is you could then get HDMI output through the normal output and probably simultaneous analog output through the analog expansion module that's sold separately. So I don't know. I'm going to stop ranting. I think you all know how much I like the OSSC and Pro. So if you were waiting on one of these, definitely grab one now before they go out of stock again. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions recently posted a video showing a fully loaded PS2 Slim, and the goal was kind of to bring it up to modern specs to make it feel more like a PS3 than a PS2 from a functionality point of view. And the mods were the methylene internal Bluetooth board, which is an internal Bluetooth controller adapter, but it also lets you power on, power off, and reset your console with the controller, just like you would with the PS3 or more modern consoles like that. And also, if you do something like you have it paired with a wireless controller and you plug in a wired one, it'll automatically switch over, and Tito showed that in the video. It was really cool. And of course, it also has a RetroGem installed, so then you get the direct digital to digital HDMI output functionality. And it also has a Mem Card Pro 2, which in my strong opinion, if you are a big fan of the PS1 and 2 and you need any kind of memory card solution other than just the bare bones basics, you have to own one of those. It just does so many different things. The only thing that was notably missing from this was a mod chip, but I would argue, why would you need a mod chip these days if you have the ability to boot homebrew, like from the Mem Card Pro 2? Also, you have RetroNAS over the built-in Ethernet, and the potential for other stuff that's kind of plug and play. And I would actually love to know anybody's opinions in the comments of, do you think a mod chip is needed in a fully loaded PS2 like this one? Or do you think just using some of the other soft modded solutions is more than good enough? For me personally, I think it would come down to if my favorite games ran fine via the soft mod solutions, I don't think I would ever need it. But if any game I really relied on, like imports and stuff like that, were disc only without any kind of glitches, then I probably would need it. But personally, the games that I play work perfect over RetroNAS, so I'm not worried about it. So if you want to hear more about this, but also a ton of other really awesome PS2 mods, please check out this post. I embedded all of the relevant videos from Tito in here, as well as the links to absolutely everything that he used. Just it was another very cool video, and I like the whole, let's make this feel more like a modern console from a functionality point of view. I thought that was a cool perspective, and I think Tito definitely accomplished it. So in that video I recently released that showed how to do 480i pass-through via the RetroTink 5X and 4K, I talked about how most capture cards force deinterlacing for any 480i signal that it might accept. And I showed that the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K, basically my favorite capture card and the one that I almost always recommend, is not compatible with 480i. And in the comments section, I got a message from somebody named Ethan Nunn saying they messaged AverMedia about this a while back, who sent them a beta firmware to try, and it did work with just a little bit of tweaking to do that. So I contacted AverMedia, and they had no clue what I was talking about. What a shock. But I put together this guide to show people how it might work. Now, I want to be very clear that this is a driver. This is not firmware. So running this, even if it's officially unsupported, will not void your warranty. And if you have any problems at all, which I did not, just reinstall the driver from their website and reboot. That's it. So this is 100% safe to try. And if you had an AverMedia Live Gamer 4K and really wanted to give 480i capture a shot, this is how you do it. You basically follow the guide exactly exactly the way I showed in the RetroTink video, which I ran through kind of quick here. But basically, install the new driver, install Lagarith and VDub, reboot, then go into VDub, set all your settings correctly. But the only changes are set it to 60 frames per second in VDub, because it's not going to allow you to access the 2997. But then go to capture settings and manually enter 2997 there. And when you record the file, it will record as a 720 by 480 2997 file. And I did the same field counter test I showed in the video, and it worked. The only issue I had at all was with 480i files. The first 2 or 3 seconds got messed up. But I did a multi-minute recording, and I would skip through and check the frames throughout all of them, and it was only the first couple of seconds, which I've seen before. That could just be a weird virtual dub thing. It could be the few milliseconds it takes for it to force that new frame rate that you've entered in the other section. But that's all it was. It was either a black screen for the first couple of seconds or some doubled or missing frames, and that's it. But just for like 1 or 2 seconds, or maybe 2 or 3. And I would recommend that you buffer your recordings to be a little bit more than that anyway. I'd say at least 5 seconds, probably more, just to make sure everything kicks in properly. So I also went back and did a 4K 60 lossless at 444 recording, and it worked perfectly as well. So in my limited testing, I'm using the Live Gamer 4K to record this video here, but in my limited testing, you just gain 480i. You don't lose anything from their latest driver that's posted on their website. So I think this one's pretty awesome for anybody that wanted to try that. And I would, at this point, feel comfortable saying this is now 480i compatible. I don't know what other tests I could throw at it other than do a couple of like 4 or 5 hour recordings and check the field to frame conversion after that. I mean, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But I think I proved it out. And also, just for the record, I did the same exact Force 2997 trick for other firmwares that AverMedia had, and didn't work. It just all of the fields were weaved together to a single frame, and you were not able to then de-interlace those. They were already just, it essentially saved the file as if it was 2997 progressive scan. So I think this is a pretty awesome thing for any gamers that want 480i or people who are backing up their old tapes or something. So definitely check out that Tink VHS capture video, which is officially my lowest performing video in many years, but I genuinely don't care. I think the people who need stuff like this really appreciate it, and I am very aware that this is a niche thing that most people don't need. But for the people that do need it, it's a big deal. So check this out, test it, let me know what you think. But I think this is cool. Now I could use my favorite capture card to also do 480i as well as basically everything else. Before I go, I wanted to mention that I listed those D9H replacement bezels on eBay. There's a good chance that they're going to be sold out by the time you hear this, and I apologize for that. I sold a few at the show, just like I talked about, and then basically as soon as I listed them, they started to sell. So hopefully there'll still be a few left. If not, though, that does mean that there's a serious interest in this. So if you have the time to, maybe post in the comments and let me know if you would still want one. And I could talk to Rourke and see if he'd be willing to do another run of these. And these are the blemished pre-production versions that we had to get through these in order to get to the more perfect ones. And when I say blemished, it's cosmetic stuff, but you don't feel it. So like when you run your hand down them, if you see one of the ones that looks like it has ridges, it's still smooth. So even though they don't perfectly match the paint on the originals, you could just paint right on them with very minimal prep, as opposed to like 3D printing, where it's quite a lot more prep to get the paint to stick properly. So even the ones that may not look great might still work for you, especially if you have a local paint shop that could just match it up for you. But if you want more info, check it out here. I have links to the RetroRGB eBay store. So if the bezels are out of stock, you might. I have a couple other D9H related stuff up for sale there as well. I also have links if you want to buy a D9H monitor, which, unless you want a multi-format 9-inch BVM, I would suggest getting any other one. But if you really want the ability to have a little portable 480p monitor, as well as 240p, 480i, 720p, and 1080i, this is pretty cool. The only thing I would suggest is just, unless you're a collector that doesn't mind spending a lot of money, stay away from the original 4x3 bezels, because they go for as much as the monitors these days. Or, if you're on a budget, you could always try to 3D print your own from the file hosted on the Console Mods wiki. But anyway, the info's in here. I apologize if they're sold out, but if they are, just let me know if you need one, and I could see if I can get another run of production done. And they would be a lot more expensive than this, though, because those wouldn't be blemished versions. Those would be, as perfect as can be possibly done with pressure molding. So take a look and let me know what you think. And hopefully this isn't wasting everybody's time right now, because they're all sold out. Sorry. Well, that's it for this week. As you can imagine, I'm very far behind on work from being at the Expo all weekend, and there's a bunch of stuff that I missed this week. The developer Infidelity has that NES to SNES port of Super Mario Brothers with a Mario Maker feature built in. There was also a ColecoVision product I wanted to talk about, and a couple of other things. Martin, aka Wicker Waka, has something that I still am not smart enough to understand what it is, but I have a feeling it's pretty cool, and I should probably write about it. So I'll try to get to all of those in the upcoming weeks. I'll try my hardest to. But once again, just thank you to everybody that was involved in any way with Retro World. I really just had an amazing time. And as always, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thanks to anybody who supports in any way, because it's you who's making all of this awesome stuff happen. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.